Michigan shooter. So in 2021, there was a shooting in Oxford High School in Michigan. I'm not going to say his first name, but someone as part of the Crumbley family killed 4 other kids. And this is the first time ever. So now we're in 2024, so it's been 3 years. And this is the first time ever that a parent has been convicted because their kid was a school shooter and is going to do some real time. It is so fascinating to me.
It is.
The levels to this, because it says it's setting a precedent. It's setting a new precedent in our country that you are responsible for the harm your children cause to other people, which has never been done. Ever been a thing. I know we're going to get into the details of the case, but first thoughts. What are you thinking when you hear, like, you could be responsible for your child's poor behavior? It feels like a duh.
It feels like a duh. The first thought I had just now was, if you have a child who, like, sexually assaults someone or does something, can you be responsible for going, like... Not yet, but it's going that way, and I'm not mad at it. I think I'm not mad at it. I don't know if it's good or bad or right or wrong. I'm not mad at it because I think more parents should take more responsibility for their children's behavior. They don't want to. Mm-hmm. I don't know if, like, I don't know if I believe in, like, people going to jail over, like, somebody else's decisions inherently. Like, I don't know how I feel about that, but, like...
Especially because he's 17.
Especially because he's 17.
He's almost an adult.
And it's a slippery slope.
It's a very
slippery slope.
So anytime we talk about in these situations, like the government interjecting, even to do the right thing,
it's a slippery slope.
My first thought is, how is it going to be abused?
And how is it going to impact Black and brown people the most? Because it always does.
And poor people.
Right, exactly.
So I watched the sentencing that they did yesterday.
Oh,
won't matter by the time we shoot it, but I watched the sentencing, and they had both parents go to trial separately. So they tried them separately, and they didn't let them talk during the entire time of the trial. They did a no contact order, so they couldn't talk. And so you said good.
They don't deserve comfort from
conniving ass bitches. And the reason why, so first of all, the recommended maximum was, I think, 7 years, and the judge chose 10 to 15. Separate equal sentencing. And the reason why she chose that is because she said that they repeatedly ignored signs a reasonable person wouldn't. And again, that is very subjective, not objective.
I think so too.
But when I heard the evidence, I believed that she was correct.
Yeah.
So basically what she cited is that they had no gun security and that parents were ignoring declining mental health. And when I heard the details of that day specifically, it made me question what's been going down in that house, first and foremost. But the day of the shooting, a teacher had saw that he had been writing and left a note. I don't know if he wanted it to be found or not. I'm going to guess he did. I work with a lot of kids who are homicidal. So this isn't new to me. And they want you to know because they're scared of their own thoughts. Mm-hmm. They know they're going to ruin their own life when they act on this. Mm-hmm. And there is a piece of them, no matter how big or small, that does not want to do that. Mm-hmm. Even if they don't care about the lives of other people. Right. It's the self-preservation piece. Like, what am I going to do? So there was a letter or like a note where he had drawn like him shooting and killing other people and then basically said, like, I can't stop my thoughts. Help me. So they pull parents in. They have them come to school. They have a meeting. In the meeting, parents were flippant. They were like, I'm not taking my kid home. Like, I have to go back to work. And later that day, he shot up the school. And they didn't inform the school, which I'm sure the school asked. This is just me going out on a limb, but as someone who works in mental health, when you are suicidal or homicidal, our first question is like, what lethal means are you able to get access to? That's our first question. Mm-hmm. If you have an idea that you want to follow through on it, how hard is it to follow through? So I'm sure that they asked. Mm-hmm. And so they had no idea that he had access to a gun. And he killed those kids later that day. As the trial was going on, the parents showed their ass even more. The mom made a statement, and I quote, "I don't think I'm a failure as a parent," in reference to this. You are absolutely a failure as a parent.
She doesn't see because he's separate from her in her eyes.
He's not.
No, I don't think so.
She's a failure as a parent.
She is.
Any parent who knows that their kid is having homicidal thoughts and doesn't drop everything to bring them to get help is a failure as a parent.
Is a failure.
I'm not saying it's your fault they have homicidal thoughts. I'm not saying you planted that in there. I'm not saying you're the ones who bullied them. I'm not saying you're the reason. But once you know, it is absolutely your responsibility to make sure that your kid is not a danger to themselves or others.
Don't play about that shit.
Ever.
ever.
And then during the time the trial was going on, they have audio recordings of the dad calling the prosecutor and threatening them, threatening their physical safety, threatening their career. And so these are just snippets. They're just moments in time. But boy, do they say a lot about the character of these parents. I don't think these parents got something they didn't deserve. And I don't think, and I feel like this now, this is why I would never own a gun, because I would feel personally responsible if my kid got into that gun. I think about that now, and I don't have children. I think about it more of like a 2-year-old finding a gun and shooting themselves than I do about...
It makes my body hurt thinking like...
Well, and everybody's like, the ammo's separate, and all of that's true, and...
On the it doesn't matter.
It doesn't.
It's just on the off chance.
And the off chance.
And there always is a fucking, like...
On the off chance. Or if you have a kid like that who is like a school shooter and all they have to do is get into your gun, they don't have to get in your ammo. They'll get ammo from someone else. Like, it's just like, there's so much responsibility when you have a weapon that deadly.
Is this long enough time for them? Is this fresh enough for you?
10 to 15 years is long enough for me, especially because they're like in their 50s or whatever. Like, yeah, that's fine to me. You'll get out old. I think it's more about, like, you are getting charged what someone who actually committed manslaughter would be getting charged. Like, you did something wrong. Like, you committed a crime.
And he turned the gun on himself? Did he commit suicide?
No. He got sentenced. He's getting life.
That never happens.
What do you mean? Oh, that they don't kill themselves?
Yeah.
I know. And I don't know the stories of exactly that, because I was more interested in the parent piece, but no.
Do you think that they are charging the parents because he's alive?
I think...
I don't even know why I'm thinking. It literally just popped into my head.
I think they're charging the parents because it was... I couldn't think of any... Like, I think if the school incident hadn't happened, they wouldn't have much to stand on unless they had other documentation that the parents knew. I think they're charging the parents because there's rarely a case that it's so blatant. Like, he's made threats today, come get your kid, and you're like, no, I have to work. And, you know, once they got convicted, of course, mom changed her tune and was like, I feel bad. And obviously I didn't know, but mom was still trying to blame dad. It was like, well, it's dad's gun. It was his responsibility to lock it up. I'm like, you guys are together.
Ooh.
You're married. You're in a house together.
There was some shit happening in that house.
Some shit happened. What do you think was happening?
I think dad was whooping everybody's ass.
Brows.
I think that the kid sounds like some shit was happening, either being like sexually or like violently abused in some way. And mom was probably like on the sidelines, not giving a fuck, and was also, I don't know, like, sounds like...
What do you think this means for school shooting going forward? Do you think it changes anything? Do you think that...
I don't think it makes it less. I think it makes parents maybe, hopefully, like, pay the fuck attention maybe a little bit more.
I think it changes the...
I don't think it ever does.
But... I think it changes the conversation. I think now every time that there's a school shooter, there will be a conversation about whether or not the parent should be charged.
I agree.
I think it shifts it.
I have a weird thought that, like, it actually makes school shooters want to do it more because they already have...
Fuck my mom and dad!
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like that vindictive street.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. That's, like, might be a total reach, but...
I could see that.
I hope it changes the conversation. It feels like every time there's, like, a school shooting, there's, like, some new thing that adds to the layer, and nothing changes.
It's really interesting because a lot of the kids I work with, their parents don't believe they're responsible for their mental health. A lot of the kids who have severe mental health, their parents are like, my kid's the problem. My kid needs to fix it. This is not about how I raise them. And so I'm not surprised at all that these parents don't feel like this is their fault. I think a lot of parents feel like my kid has like free will and autonomy, and like the things that they do are their choice and they should know better. And I think there's some truth to that, but I also think that like children are the product of your environment. It's the environment you gave them.
Do you feel like mental health is the thing that is either getting over-talked in kind of like gun stuff and kind of school, like shootings, or do you feel like it's something that's under-talked and under-discussed or discussed in the wrong way?
I feel like mental health is a conversation at times when it's a person that we want to have empathy for. And then I think if we have a different narrative for them, we choose that like terrorist. I think if we could place it on terrorism, or like racism, we would do that before mental health. But if we don't have any of that, we give it to mental health. And I think what it really is anytime something tragic happens, we want to put our finger on it and say, this person did something wrong, because it makes us feel like if we were in that situation, we wouldn't be out of it. We would save ourselves. We would prevent it from happening.
Well,
it gives power.
We can't sit in that ambiguity.
No.
There has to be something wrong. There has to be somebody responsible.
There's Yeah, like, I don't think most people think about this when they walk throughout the world, and you shouldn't, because it would drive you insane. Like, think about when you're in a tunnel. Like, you're driving in a tunnel in rush hour traffic. Like, you are relying on the other 100 people in that tunnel not to have a mental breakdown and kill you.
Every day.
We are having collective trust in the people around us at all times, and we don't want to think about it.
We don't want to think about it.
When you go into a mall, you're trusting everybody in that mall.
We are all
when
in
you
a
go to
collective
school,
agreement. We're in an agreement together to not fuck shit up for everybody else.
All the time. And so, like, these are one of those moments that pokes and pops that bubble. That little bubble we all like to live in, where we feel like we're safe as long as we don't make mistakes.
Somebody did not give a fuck about the thing that we're all agreeing to.
They did not agree to that if you don't do anything wrong, nothing happens.
They actually want to break it. They want to do the opposite. They want to cause terror, or whatever the thing is.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, we all don't want to think about it.
We can't think about it.
What would be but I just mean, like, the conditions that would go into creating that for some reason. And I get it. It's like, it feels like individual cases so often. Like, there's not like 5 people going into a school and shooting up everybody. Mm-hmm. It's individual this, individual that. And so people don't want to think of it as an epidemic.
It is an epidemic.
It is an epidemic.
I think people see it as an epidemic. I actually disagree with that. I think people have surmised the reason that all these school shooters are happening. And I think they've surmised that it's like bullying / like not having access to women who want to date them / like self-hate.
Like some incel shit.
Yeah, incels is what people say. Like, oh, these men who can't get women, they hate themselves, they're isolated, they're miserable, they're bitter, they've been bullied at school. I think we have talked a lot about it, and we've kind of dismissed it as this thing that just exists that some kids just can't handle.
They're just these losers. They're just these losers that can't handle life, and they should be taken off the map anyway.
Yes.
That's the sentiment from people.
So I do think there is, like, people have put thought and time and energy into it, and I don't think that necessarily, like, I don't know why this spike in school shooting has happened. I really don't know why it's so prevalent. I couldn't make up a story that makes sense to me. That's not just like some bullshit I've already heard on the internet that I'm repeating. No. Like, I can't, like, there's nothing intuitively.
It's all conjecture.
That makes sense to me.
It doesn't make any sense to me.
Except that if I wanted to die anyways, this is a way to be remembered.
There's something, and there's something about it to me. Somebody brought that up, that's uniquely American. Like, wanting that kind of, like...
It's like talking about your second death. There's a lot of people who don't care about the second death. So the first death is when you actually die, and the second death is the last time your name was spoken. And some people perseverate their whole life on what their second death is going to be. I have to be famous. I have to have a legacy. I have to have these things. And I think that there's a lot of people, including me, who just feels like that second death is inevitable, and I don't give a shit.
Same. I don't give a fuck.
But that does feel American.
It feels American.
To be remembered and special. And what am I going to do with this freedom? And how am I going to be great?
All this stuff. But it's like the problem, the specific problem of school shootings is uniquely American.
Yes.
People are not. And so there has to be something like culturally wrong with us living here. There's something about our culture. There's something about us that is facilitating this. And maybe it is that we just have more guns per capita than other nations. I also really don't. I don't know the numbers. I don't know any of that shit.
We do have more guns, but I don't know if that's it either, because I think we always had more guns.
We've always had more
guns. So why have they spiked? Why has it spiked now?
Right. So I'm saying, and so it's like,
it doesn't help.
Right. It doesn't help. And I don't know if we're more violent than other nations. I don't know if I buy that. Like,
so when I think about safety, so kids come to the hospital, right? And we do a safety plan. And basically the safety plan is like, if you're homicidal, how do I keep you from killing somebody? Mm-hmm. If you're suicidal, how do I keep you from killing yourself? Whatever the thing is. So the idea with safety planning is that you have autonomy. Like, as a person, if you want to really kill yourself, you can. If you really want to kill somebody, you can. And so what we're doing is we're trying to, because most people act on those things in a moment of being dysregulated emotionally. They have big emotions, whether they're anger, sadness, hopelessness,
even happiness,
fear, whatever. They have really big emotions, and then they act during those emotions. So what we're doing is, like, I'm taking all the pills out of your house, not because I don't think that you could go to Walgreens and buy them, but because most people, by the time they get to Walgreens, are going to calm down and not buy them. Most times
they're going to have that second thought.
That's the same thing with buying a gun in the waiting period. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm really angry right now. If I could get this gun today, I'm going to shoot my wife. Mm-hmm. I might sleep on it and not shoot my wife. I know that sounds trivial, but it's true.
It's the reasonings by it.
It's true. And so that's how, like, the gun crisis is a problem, is that it's too accessible. It's too easy. You get to do it in moments of anger and of rage.
You can walk into a Walmart and get a gun.
Where the school shooter doesn't apply is he clearly planned this.
Yes. And they always plan it. It's always premeditated.
Yes.
It's always a gun that they got at the home. It's there's like
he sat on it all day.
Right.
And waited until the end of the school day and lit that shit up.
Right. When it was busy.
He sat on it.
Right.
He planned it. And so safety planning wouldn't have necessarily even worked. But what does it say about the fact that like your kid had fucked up mental health and clearly was on a teacher's radar? Because teachers don't just check kids' notes.
No.
So was on a teacher's radar as the weird kid.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys did nothing to stop them? Weren't you worried he was going to kill himself? Like, weren't you worried your kid who was off was going to kill himself?
The parents are off because and I always get the sense that parents are off in these situations. They're never just these normal families. It's
rarely.
Rarely. Rarely. They're absent or they're neglectful or there was abuse or, a parent, there was some sort of rift that happened. Like, maybe not even extreme trauma, it sounds like, when we don't always know, but there's always like some sort of like adjustment or something for the kid or some sort of loneliness or they're isolated in some way. And it's like parents have to key into that shit a little bit more. You have to be interested in your kids' lives. You have to be interested in like what's going on. Like,
it's interesting though, because them charging these parents with this is like literal legal proof that now it's not just good enough to provide a roof over your kid's head. It's not enough.
You can't just be a provider and that's enough.
Not enough. You are now responsible for your kids' mental health legally.
And their emotional well-being. It is your job to make sure that your child...
I just had a point. Sorry.
That's true.
Mood. But no, I never thought about it until this moment, but it is that. It is, I think, maybe one of the first legal stamps to be like, you are actually kind of in charge of your kids' mental health. And if their mental health is so bad they hurt other people, that's on you. And that's never been a conversation. Parents, how many parents say, like, what am I supposed to do besides put a roof over your head? I provide for you. I bring you to things. I do material things for you. Not enough. And the law says so, too.
The law says so, too.
That's a good place to end.
Should we pause there?
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Yeah. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Let me take you away. All I need is just saying, yeah. Better nights, better days. When you're here with me, babe. 'Cause you're all that I crave, so I...
MBC. No relation to NBC.